AZ-104, the Microsoft exam, a great place to start when you want to take this exam is to go right to the Microsoft Learn page for the exam. And there you'll see an overview and a summary of what you're going to find on the exam. So we're going to go through this together here. Today we're going to start with sort of the very beginning, but what you want to do is scroll down, and down the page you will see this Exam AZ-104 study guide. So we're going to click that here, and we're going to scroll right down there, and this is going to really talk about the skills that are measured for AZ-104. So you see a bunch of stuff here. We're just going to start right at the beginning. So we're going to do the very basics and create users and groups. Before we can do that, we need to figure out how are we going to do that, and that's where Microsoft Entra comes in. This is actually before users and groups, as you see here. So how are we going to manage Entra, whatever you want to call it? How are we going to do that if we have no clue what it is? You probably do know what it is, but we're still going to cover that because it's sort of in the exam. So let's just go right over. We can look at Wikipedia. We're not going to read this whole article here. Why would you be watching this video? Of course, people don't really read nowadays, so maybe you actually want me to read it for you. But whatever the case, really, Microsoft Entra is an identity service for the cloud. Pretty simple, right? You see that here? An I am solution. Probably a good way to think of that is, who am I? I am so-and-so. Going over here to the Microsoft page, you can see they have a whole bunch of stuff. All these nice little things that they want to sell you licenses for. But ultimately, it just comes down to it's an identity solution. So something you got to know here is for this course and pretty much all the videos here on this channel is really, they're not very professional in the sense that we're just kind of winging it here. I don't like to edit videos. Sometimes I might, but overall I don't plan to do it. So let's jump in here to Microsoft Entra. We might chat a bit as we're going through this. I'm actually entering this from portal.azure.com. So we're looking at this from the Azure perspective. Call it Azure, whatever you want to call it. You can also get here through the Microsoft 365 admin portal a number of ways, but if you jump in here, it's probably there. If you don't see it, you can just search, right? I don't know why I searched Azure, but we're going to look for Entra. Maybe why I searched Azure is because Entra used to be called Azure AD, Azure Active Directory, which really wasn't a very good name because it's not the same thing as Active Directory. However, for the sake of simplicity, you might think of it as something like Active Directory for the cloud. Something you got to know again about when we go through this, any of these videos. I might sacrifice technical terminology for the sake of understanding. So there's probably going to be things, that I get wrong just because I don't know everything. In fact, there's many things I don't know. We're maybe kind of going through this together here. Secondly, if I can make you understand this, even at the expense of some extreme technical accuracy, that's what we're going to do. So for now, think of it as Active Directory in the cloud. Of course, maybe you have no idea what Active Directory is, in which case, then don't think of it that way. As you see, I clicked on, what did I click on? I clicked on users. It's pretty obvious. So you jump in there to users, and you can see I have a bunch of users. All these users are part of a Visual Studio subscription that I purchased. That's one way to get an Entra tenant. We can actually talk about that maybe in another video, or while I'm rambling on this video, one of the two. So really, I just did create new user. So what are we gonna call this guy? Let's just call him new user 1. That's a great name. New user 1. We'll call that his display name. The password, I'm not going to show you that password, but I am going to copy it to the clipboard. You may end up finding it. I'm going to delete this user before it's even posted. So even if you got it, wouldn't really do you much good. But I just auto-generated it, right? You got a few options. They're pretty straightforward. You can choose your user principal name. That's pretty much the main name that things are going to refer to you as, without getting into great detail there. We don't need to worry about some of this. We'll leave it as default. We, of course, want the account enabled. Obviously, if you uncheck that, it's not going to be enabled. There are things like properties. You know, this is, again, all these different properties for the user. I could change, add their mobile phone, right? Their street address, the department, whatever. Assignments, you can assign them to groups. In fact, groups are something that we also need to look at. So what are we going to do here? We're going to add to a group. I don't know. It's a tough decision. I'm going to say, let's go ahead and add them to a group, right? Well, maybe we'll say this guy, he's a sales guy. He's not a very good sales guy, but he's our only sales guy. So we gotta just add him to that group till we can find another better guy. Maybe kind of looking. We got some resumes coming in. There's another guy named New User 2. He might be a better sales guy, but for now we'll stick with this guy. So all right, this let's see, what do we call him? New user. Okay, so I'm gonna just search, right? There he is. So what are we gonna do here? So I created that user. That was not complicated, was it? This would be a pretty boring video if we weren't gonna go into something a lot more exciting, which would be groups. So yeah, there's a thing called groups. I'm gonna go back to home. Maybe we'll look at groups here. So you see under manage, that's all I'm doing here. Just clicking manage. You know, you got overview. You can change, for the record, all kinds of stuff about your tenant here. Out of the scope of this video because we're looking at users in groups for now. So I'm clicking on groups, and you can see there's overviews. I have 7 groups. There's some different kinds of groups, right? You got your M365 group. You've got your security groups, dynamic groups, cloud groups, and on-premise groups. I have 0 of those because this, I guess we'll just start here. On-premise, this would be like if you are syncing to an Active Directory domain. Did you know you could do that? You might have some servers on site, Windows servers on-prem, and you might want to sync your groups and users up to the cloud. The authoritative source there would generally be the on-prem, though there are things you can do to write things back. That's getting pretty complicated here, but that's basically what this on-premise group is. What's a cloud group? Well, I've got 7 of them. Should we see what they are? Oh, look, there they are. You can see these were created in the cloud. That's their source. It's their cloud groups. There's different group types. We'll get into that here in a second, but let's go back. Dynamic groups. Those are a lot of fun. Basically, well, let's just create one, right? New group. Oh boy. So we got to pick a group type. Security or 365. So I guess we got to talk about that first. Otherwise, this would get kind of confusing. So we'll talk about dynamic groups in a second. Let's go back, check out security groups. So what is a security group? Well, in simple terms, let's just create a new one. What kind of security group do we want to create? A security group. All right. So group name, let's call it security group 1. Still haven't answered the question. What is it? Well, okay. So Security groups are basically groups that will control security to something. You might have a SharePoint site, you might have any sort of resource, whatever the case. You can say, hey, this guy, this group, security group 1, we're calling him, he has access to this, or doesn't have access to this, or there's just a lot of things you can do with it. The general idea there is you can add users to the group to control access to those resources. Again, don't quote me on all of this. I'm just kind of going by memory. I'm not reading off something. I might be wrong at various points. Not majorly wrong. Again, we might sacrifice some extreme technical accuracy just to get you the general overall idea. I always recommend, in fact, let me give a disclaimer here. This is for entertainment purposes only. However, look, get to a point where you can use it, right? That's what we're doing here. You start using it, then you can look at those details, figure it out. You could ask AI, and it would probably give you a bunch of wrong answers anyway. I mean, it might give you some right, some wrong. So that's all anyone does nowadays anyway. So do we want to assign a role to the group? We got to answer that question. Let's hit yes. Sorry for the throat clearing. Just gonna have to deal with it. I hope at some point these videos, the quality will improve over time as we go through this course. The equipment might get better. The skills of the person recording might improve. Various things like that. But so what happens if we add a role? I'm sorry that I'm kind of all over here, but so there's different roles, right? I'm gonna just click there. What kind of role do we want? Look at this. We got a whole bunch of these things. Basically, they just give certain permissions and things like that. Let's give this group the ability to attribute assignment reader, whatever that is. I'm not even going to read all these. There's a million of them, but basically they can read these things here. So this guy will be in this role. You can give him a role like a admin, right? Like a Dynamics 365 administrator or a backup reader, backup administrator, things like that. But we're making just a general group. So then if you have a group, you have owners, people that own the group. We'll just give this guy the owner or global admin here. And members, who's in the group? Well, this guy, I don't know. This guy, we've had some problems with this guy. We might have to let him go. I don't know. He's been bothering the boss and a number of people. So, but for now, we're gonna add him to that group. He's a sales guy too. But yeah, we won't get into that. Privacy stuff like that. What is the name of the group we created? New user one, or the user we created, new user 1. So we're gonna add him. So we got 2 members, both mediocre salesmen, and I'm going to create the group. Do we want a description? Sure. We'll call it mediocre salesman group. Right? I don't know if I spelled that right, but that's okay. So this tells us we can't change this later because of the roles thing. That's all right. I don't care. So I'm hitting yes. We're going to create the group. There we go. All right. So now let's get back. We got to talk about M365 groups. My understanding is when you create one of these groups, in fact, let's do it. What you're getting there is a lot more than security. You're just getting a whole package of things. Like, as far as I understand, it's going to create a shared mailbox. It's going to create a SharePoint site. You have the option to create a Teams site. In fact, let's look it up. We'll see. We'll see in their documentation here. Doesn't look like their search is working. Let's try it here. We'll go home, Microsoft 365 group. Let's just make sure I'm right, okay? So this is going to be a long document, but long story short, so yeah, creates SharePoint site, Exchange mailbox, planner, OneNote notebook. You can add members just like other groups, but as you can see here, you get all this nice blue stuff, and sometimes you get this stuff. Thanks, Microsoft. You get roadmap, that's a good one, and hopefully you do get that. So group name, what are we gonna call this group? Mediocre sales guy. Oh, okay, we'll call it sales guy instead of salesman there. 365 group. All right, let's call it that. So description, nah, we're not gonna do that. Enter roles, let's not do a role. And do we want assigned or dynamic? Okay, so now we're getting to the dynamic thing. Remember we talked about that. So if you do dynamic, well, let's start with assigned. Assigned is you just add people, right? Just like we did. Let's put this guy and this guy in that group, and now they're assigned. The other option is dynamic. So, well, how does that work? Well, that means you can have it be dynamic. The membership of the group might change based on various factors. So if you were to do that, I went in there, there's rules that you can create. There's expressions, and you can just basically look at different properties and just build some sort of expression that will determine whether they're in this group or not. If that, I believe if that evaluates to true, I don't know, it's probably, well, you know, you got your operators here. But that's the gist of that. For now, we're going to go back. We're going to just do assigned. You can see that everything I typed there is gone because I didn't save it, apparently. So there's our 365 group again, and we're going to go members. We're going to get this guy, and then what was it? New user. There we go. So we're going to create. Let's just see what happens. All right. Well, it looks like it created it. I thought there was. I thought it asked you if you wanted to create a team. I guess not. Maybe I did something wrong. I'm not sure. But now if we go look at new user, you got your info on the user here, but look at this. Group memberships, 4. Well, how did we get 4? I really don't know how he got added to this Microsoft one. Let's go check that out. So what is this? This is assigned. Manage properties. Let's just check it out. So this is a 365 group, and it's assigned. I don't remember adding him to that group. That is, I guess, a mystery to me. I don't know how that happened, but it's not dynamic. I couldn't tell you. But that will have to be a mystery. Maybe if you know how, you can leave a comment. Let's go back here to our study guide. So we did users and groups. There's a lot of other ways we can do this. We could do it through PowerShell. You come in here, this is a little sneak preview, but up in this guy, you can click this thing and you get a Cloud Shell, which you can then type in various commands, which, again, outside of the scope of this video, it probably should be in the scope, but it's not going to be. So we did manage users and properties. Basically, play around with it. I'm not going to give you every little detail here, but This next one is licenses. Let's do that. Let's get him a license. This guy, he's not going to be able to work and do his sales if he doesn't have some sort of license. So in Microsoft Entra, you need licenses. I don't want this to be so simple that you get bored here, but there are different sorts of licenses. Obviously, let's just look it up here, right? Microsoft 365 licenses, there's all kinds of plans and things that you get. I'm going to click for business because this is a business account, right? So you have your business premium. This is the bigger business account. You got your standard and you got your basic. Basic only comes with the web versions of Word and Excel and all that. Standard gets you more stuff. Business gets you a lot of extra stuff. It's actually a decent license. You just get all kinds of stuff, including Intune licenses and things, which that's way outside of the scope of this. But whatever the case, I have business licenses. So we're going to go back to Entra, and we're going to find our user, new. Where is he? There he is. Okay. And I'm gonna go to licenses. So a lot of times you might manage this through the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. In fact, they actually tell you it's only available here. Now, why they added a licenses thing here, and I couldn't tell you. I guess maybe I really don't know. This is what you have to get used to with Microsoft. They just change everything all the time. They always will get some new center that you got to go to, and then you get to the new center, you find out there's a new center, and you go there, and you do some functionality, and you click on the link, and it says, no, actually, we moved it over to here, and that's just kind of how it goes. So we're going to go to the 365 Admin Center. So there, we're going over here, logging in, takes a second. Sorry to... I don't think I'm going to edit this, so you're just going to have to wait. All right, so here we are, 365 Admin Center. So it looks like we have 8 available licenses. We actually have E5 licenses. So those are, if we go back to our licensing here, we're under the Business tab. There is an Enterprise tab. See, Business, you're kind of limited to 300 users max. It should say that somewhere. I don't see it here, but pretty sure that's still the case. By the time you watch this, they may have changed it. I'm an AI agent. Look at this. Should we ask a question here? How many total licenses can you use on Business Premium? Let's just make sure this AI agent says okay, completely didn't answer the question. Well, sort of did, but it shouldn't matter with Teams. We'll just say with Teams. This is, we're waiting on this. All right, there it is, 300 users. Look at that, I actually figured it out. Nice job. Nice job, Copilot. So, all right, so we go to Enterprise. That's where we were going. So once you get over 300, you start getting into the Enterprise tier. So we actually have the big boy license, Microsoft 365 E5. This is a nice expensive license. Again, I have a Microsoft Visual Studio Professional Standard license, which gives you a bunch of these. It ain't cheap, I'll tell you that, but it does give you a Azure tenant and 365 sandbox, basically, to play around in. That's where all these users came from. Just when you create that, it creates all these users, except for this guy that we're going to find our new user. Oh, wait, look at these are the ones that are assigned. So that's actually what's going on here. I was kind of clicking around. I get a little spastic with the mouse when I'm talking. We're going to actually go back. We're going to find our user. our mediocre salesman new user 1. We're going to click on licenses and apps. Again, there's always multiple ways to do this. You can do it, you ought to be able to do it through PowerShell. We're not going to go there again here, but I just clicked the license and I clicked on save changes. So what that's going to do is it should provision this guy a mailbox. And then theoretically, if we go back here, it'll show the license. That's probably why they have this, just so you can see it. If I click there, you can see that, oh, look, I got all this stuff. So if we go back to our study guide, we have now managed a license. Not really in Entra. We didn't manage it in Entra because it doesn't let you. So I guess it's kind of a funny thing that you go to do that and you can't do it. You got to go to the 365 center. But anyway, I digress there. So we're going to manage an external user next. All right, getting to the end if you're getting bored here. So let's go ahead and create an external user. What the heck is an external user? Well, it's a user that is not internal. It is external. So I'm going to click new user. So external user, I mean, seems straightforward, but maybe that's not clear enough. So maybe you got another business you collaborate with. Well, you might have a couple people that you want to assign access to certain resources. Well, you can make an external user and basically make them a guest in your system. So we're going to call this, I don't know, how about new user 2? Yeah, if you actually remember, this guy had his resume in. He's actually a pretty decent sales guy. So let's start collaborating with him. We're going to just call him new user 2. That's his actual given name there. So we're going to send an invite. And we're going to call him, we're going to send an invite message and say, hey, join, we'll hire you soon. So we're not going to see, let's CC our guy, our new user guy, just so he knows that his potential replacement is right on deck. Not to be a jerk, but maybe that will help him to be a better sales guy, right? We don't want to totally freak him out, but we're going to CC him. We can either review an invite or we can go to properties if we really want to fill all this stuff out, which I don't. So I'm not going to do anything else. Looks like some required information is missing. You can see this validation failed. So what is missing? Well, you see these little red things. That means something is missing. So let's go to properties first. We see the user type is guest. So we're going to do that. I really don't know exactly what member would do if you were to invite an external user. That's a good question. That's something, again, maybe for us to look up here. Get external user member versus guest. Let's just do that, right? So difference between the guest and the user types. This guy's got the same question. Our little bot guy is going to answer. So it's with a B2B collaboration, business to business. And it looks like they're using some sort of external identity provider. Okay, but they do have guest level permissions. This is for guest. Okay, so I had it backwards. Guest. What about external? I don't really know. This is a lot to read while I'm trying to figure out what to say. Looks like a multi-tenant thing. The user objects created. Well, let's just move on. You can figure that out. I'm not gonna get too deep on that because you'll get bored if you just watch me read. So maybe next time, next video, if I get more info, we'll come back to it. Otherwise, I'd encourage you to learn and read on your own as well. This isn't just to tell you exactly what to do. It's more to get you familiar with the concepts and the theories. So this is not a valid email address. Okay, that's a problem. So this is the email he put in his resume. So obviously, maybe he's not quite as good of a sales guy as I thought. I don't know, but we'll put in this because I believe that's what it is. So if we click on review and invite, now none of our red circles are there, so that's good. So I'm going to hit invite, which hopefully that address doesn't actually exist because it just went out. However, not a big deal. But before we do anything further, I'd like to go back and actually look at that user. So we're going to go under users. I went to Entra, then users. I know it's kind of fast, but that's just something you'll have to deal with. Let's look for him. New, I'm going to search new. You can see him now. Okay, new user 2. User type is guest. He's obviously not on-premise synced. He's not an agent, which I guess that's good. Maybe it's bad, depending on your situation. But we could see he's an external. We could convert him to internal. We're waiting on his acceptance, so it'll send him an invitation. He has to accept it. And then you can do all kinds of stuff like enforce MFA, multi-factor authentication, things like that. But we're not going to get that deep here. We're just doing a general overview. So we're going to cancel. And that's the gist of that. So external user, we could give him access. Remember that security group thing? We could add him to a group and give him access, or we can just add him to various things. I don't really have anything to add him to or that I want to right now. So we're not going to do that. But we are going to move on to this self-service password reset. So this one, we're going to go back into Entra, and we're going to look. They change this thing, by the way, constantly. In fact, I get a little confused coming this way. So let's go, and we're going to jump back to our 365 admin, and we're going to actually go down here to show all. And we're going to see all of our little admin centers. I'm going to click identity. And that actually brings us to Entra. So now we're actually in the Entra admin center. You can see that it's a little different, right? Like in here, we're under Azure or Azure, and there's a bunch of stuff here, but it's not quite the same as here. This has a lot more things. This is the one I'm more used to, so I went here. So we're doing the password reset thing, the self-service reset. And honestly, I went to password reset here, and we got this thing, self-service password reset. So what is that? So it designates whether users can reset their own password. That's probably a good thing, usually. I mean, in the sense that they don't have to call you or whoever to reset their password. They have the ability to do it. Obviously, if you don't do it right, it can be a problem. But I went ahead and hit all, and I hit save. So this changed the policy, and I'm going to just refresh this just for fun. And it says none. All right. I'm going to refresh it again. Let's just see what it says now. It still says none. Did it not save? I'm guessing maybe it's a delay. I'm probably doing something wrong. I'm not sure. We're going to try it again. I'm going to hit save. All right. It says it was successful. I just stumbled over my tongue there, but we're going to look under here, authentication methods. So this is, well, apparently security questions are retiring. So you can't use a security question, but this is like things that when they go to do this reset, they're required to authenticate through some other means. So that way it's not just like any old person can come in and reset your password. Obviously, that would be terrible. So you can do 1 or 2 if you want extra security. You can do 2. And what methods are available? Security questions, but those are retiring. So I guess that isn't really going to be an option. So that's interesting. What does this say? Use the auth methods policy to manage other authentication methods. Thank you for not making it complicated, Microsoft. All right. So it looks like we get in here and we have some other ones enabled. I believe that since those are enabled, so you got their Microsoft Authenticator, this guy, and this guy. I believe if you were to, well, I don't really know. I would think that this would use that, but I guess I got to learn more about this. So I think we'll call this here. In fact, I don't know. We'll deal with this maybe later. Make another video, come back. We'll do the other thing that I forgot, which I also forgot what that was. I think it was something to do with this. We'll maybe deal with this. I don't know if it's going to be the next video because it's kind of boring, but we'll get back to it. Next time we'll probably keep rolling down this list and we'll go from there. You get through this list, I know we're starting slow, but you get through that whole AZ-104, that's a long list, but we'll get there. We're kind of going through it together. Again, this is just how it goes. I make no promises that this will be exciting or amazing or even 100% accurate. Again, we're kind of learning this together. So we're gonna wrap up here and call it, and we'll go from there. See you guys later.